Growing up, my older sister, who we will call Jess, was my role model. She was cool, fun, and a bit wild, while I was the responsible younger sister, always making sure everyone was okay. We are really close, even though we don't always see eye to eye. When Jess got married to her husband, Steve, 5 years ago, I was excited to become an aunt. A year later, they welcomed my adorable niece. Let's call my niece Sophie. Now, Jess and Steve both work full-time, so they often need help with babysitting. At first, I was happy to watch Sophie and spend time with her. I was planning to apply for a job at the time while still in school, and so they both agreed to pay me something small in exchange of looking after Sophie. In the beginning, Jess and Steve would give me small money here and there. This was a fair arrangement since I was taking time out of my own schedule. I loved spending time with my niece, playing with her and watching her grow. However, as time went on, I noticed something troubling. At first, Jeff and Steve made sure to pay me, but slowly their payments became less frequent. I watched as they would casually mention how busy they were or how they had no cash on hand. They would tell me they will pay me next time, giving me half-hearted excuses. I let it slide at first because I trusted them and wanted to help. But then they stopped paying me altogether. Months passed and Sophie grew into a toddler and the pattern continued. I'd babysit several nights a month, sometimes on short notice. Anytime I brought it up to Jess, she would tell me they were struggling financially and that I should bear with her. And then soon, she started telling me I was family and that I don't even have to be paid for watching over my niece. I was sacrificing my own time and sometimes missing out on plans with friends. I could have been working elsewhere and getting paid. And sometimes when Steve and Jess closed from work, instead of taking over, they'll go out to party with friends. Now, my dad, who was paying for my fees, fell ill suddenly and my mom was not working. It was the beginning of a new semester and I had to pay my fees. Jess knew what was going on at home and I was even expecting her to volunteer to help me pay for my fees. But she didn't say anything. So one day, I approached her and told her I needed to pay for my fees and buy a few books. My dad was sick and I was jobless because I was taking care of her child. She told me she was still not doing well financially and that she didn't have any money to give me. I believed her, and only God knows the things I had to go through to get the money to pay for my fees. And all this while, I was still taking care of my niece. And they were not paying me, but they were family, right? A few days after I paid my fees, Jess came home with a new car and a new iPhone 16 Pro Max. But two is up. I was so hurt when I saw the car and the iPhone. She said she saved money to buy them, meaning that she had money in her accounts that she could have given me to pay my fees. But she intentionally didn't. Despite this, I didn't say anything. I was hurt, but I kept my feelings to myself. But after watching them buy new furniture and spend money on expensive clothes while I went unpaid, I resolved to bring it up. I politely told Jess that I loved spending time with Sophie, but needed to receive payment for babysitting. Jess looked surprised and responded, "She's your niece, why are you complaining about watching her?" At that moment, I knew things had to change. She called me early in the morning the next day like she always does. She was preparing to go to work and asked me what time I was coming to take over. I told her I can't do this for free anymore. It's either she pays me or I'm not coming. She got defensive immediately. She said, "You are my sister. How can you put a price on time spent with your niece?" My heart sank. It was clear she didn't understand my position. So ultimately, I said no, and Jess was furious. She started shouting on me and asked me if I was going to let a little money come between us. I had always been there for her, and now I was being painted as the villain. So I brought up the car, the iPhone, the new furniture and clothes that she bought, while she refused to pay me, and how she couldn't even help me with my fees even though she had the money. And she responded that it was her money, and she can spend it the way she wants to spend it. After I heard that, I just ended the call. Later that evening, her husband called me and told me they were ready to pay me again. He asked me if I could start working the next day, but I told him no. I wanted to get a job to do. On days I was not working or less busy, I don't mind watching Sophie for free, but I don't want to work full-time as their babysitter. Jess has stopped talking to me and is telling everyone I chose money over family. I've tried to get in touch with her several times, but she doesn't even want to see me. I just want to know if I'm the one who is wrong here. This follower needs your opinions, babes. Please drop some below. And don't forget to follow me for more story times. Around midnight a few weeks ago, I was watching TV when I suddenly heard loud banging at my door. It startled me and I took my phone to check the time. It was around 12:15 a.m. Who could be knocking at my door at this hour? Cautiously, I approached the door and looked through the people. I could see it was a woman holding a bag. She looked very thin, dirty and worn out. The light was on my veranda, but I couldn't recognize her. I decided not to respond to this person and hope she goes away. But she kept banging on my door. And at this rate, I knew she was going to wake up my neighbor. neighbors. So I called out to her and asked her what she wanted. She mentioned my name and said, "This is your friend Grace from JSS." I recognized the voice immediately. I looked closely at her through the people and it was really Grace. She was an old friend from junior high school. But what was she doing at my house at this time? And why did she look so dirty? She called out my name again and begged me to let her in. She said she needed my help and she had nowhere else to go. Now, Grace used to be a very good friend of mine in school, but I've not heard from her in years. And yes, she was at my front door in the middle of the night, looking very dirty and worn out, asking me to open my door for her. I hesitated because everything happening was too strange, but she really looked like she needed help. And so, against my better judgment, I opened the door for her. At the time, I didn't know what I was getting myself into. Part 2 is up. I opened the door and stepped aside to let Grace in. She smelled so badly. "Are you okay?" I asked her. She took a deep breath before she began to explain. "I need a place to stay for a little while. I'm in a really bad situation and I don't know where else to go." She sat on my couch and I offered her some water. "So how did you find me?" I asked her. "I left my town years ago and only a few people know where I stay in the city." She said she saw me in town and followed me home earlier that day. But she didn't know how to approach me because she was scared I would turn her away. This was very strange. I asked her why she waited till the middle of the night to knock on my door. And she said she really needed help and she just decided to take her chance. Now, back at home where we grew up, my family used to be very close to her, so we moved away to another part of the town. I asked her if she had contacted her family and her face changed all of a sudden. She told me she speaks to her mom every day, but her mom doesn't know her current situation because she doesn't want to worry her. It was around 1 a.m. at this point and I had to go to work the next day. I asked her to wash up and then gave her some food to eat. We both went to sleep and agreed to talk more the next day. I used to know her, but I didn't know her now. I just couldn't let her move in with me just like that, especially since she was being secretive and she was trying to avoid some of the questions I threw at her. The next morning, before I decided on what to do, I called my mom. I told her about Grace showing up all of a sudden at my doorsteps, and what my mom told me shocked me to my core. Grace has been missing for years. Apparently, she went out to buy something a year after I left my town and never came back. Her mom has not heard from her in years and I've been looking for her non-stop. Why did Grace lie to me and tell me she has been talking to her mom every day? What was going on? Part 3 is After talking to my mom, I confronted Grace and she said she left the town on her own. She said she actually left the town with one of our teachers. They were dating and he was moving to the city. And so she decided to go with him. She knew her mom would never agree to this, so she decided not to tell her. After they got to the city, he changed and started treating her badly. She couldn't take it anymore and so she ran away. She stayed with some girls for some time, but they also threw her out. She said she has been living on the streets ever since. She was too ashamed to go back home and she didn't know how to tell me all this, and that is why she lied to me. After she finished the story, I told her mom has been searching for her non-stop since she left the town and that it was time to go back. I told her I had already called my mom, who is alerting her mom to tell her she was with me. As I was talking to her, I received a call from my mom. She said Grace's mom was leaving the town immediately to come and see her daughter. She'll be meeting her at the station and then they'll come to my place together. When I told Grace about this, her face changed. It was clear something more was going on. I asked her if she was okay and she just smiled and nodded. It was getting late and I had to go to work, and so I told her we'll talk more when I get back. Where her mom was coming from was quite far away, and so I knew they were going to get to my place later in the evening. I gave Grace some food and left. By the time I got back home, she was gone. Her bag and everything she came with was gone. When I saw her mom later that evening and told her the news, she broke down into tears. She cried uncontrollably for hours. She and my mom stayed the night, hoping Grace would come back, but she didn't. The next day, we searched throughout my area in the city, but she was gone. Her mom also got in touch with the teacher she said she was dating, but he was a married man with 3 kids, and he said he never left the town with Grace, and they were never in a relationship. In fact, he was still living in the town when Grace went missing, meaning that everything she told me was a lie. Up until today, I have still not heard from her. I still don't know why she ran away, but I just hope she's doing okay wherever she is. Don't forget to follow me for more story times. My wedding was 3 years ago, and it was the most magical day of my life. Not just because I married the love of my life, but because of the dress. My wedding dress wasn't just a dress. It was a dream come true. I'd been imagining my wedding since I was a little girl, and when I finally found the one, it felt like fate. It was a stunning custom-made gown with intricate lace details. The gown made me feel like a princess, and it wasn't cheap. I saved up for months, and even started working another job on the weekends to afford it. And when I wore it on my wedding day, it was worth every penny. After the wedding, I decided to preserve the dress. I had it professionally cleaned and stored in a special box. I don't plan on wearing it again, but it is my most treasured possession. It is not just a dress, but a memory of the happiest day of my life. Now, I have this cousin we'll call Lisa. Lisa and I were close growing up. She has always been a bit dramatic. She's the kind of person who borrows things and either returns them damaged or not at all. She once borrowed my favorite pair of heels for a wedding and returned them with a heel snapped off. And she even told me it was not her fault and that the floor was slippery. Now, Lisa got engaged last year, and her wedding is coming up in a few months. She has been planning the wedding on a tight budget, which is totally fine. Weddings are expensive, but here is the thing. Lisa has a habit of expecting people to bend over backward for her. She asked me to help her with the wedding planning, and I agreed because she was family. But then she started making unreasonable demands, like asking me to design her invitations for free. I'm a graphic designer, by the way, and borrowing money from me, I know she's not going to pay back. Now, a few days ago, Lisa called me out of the blue. She was all sweet and bubbly, which immediately made me suspicious. After some small talk, she dropped the bomb. So I was thinking, since you are not using your wedding dress anymore, maybe I could borrow it for my wedding. It will save me so much money, and it is such a beautiful dress. I was stunned. I didn't know what to say. On one hand, I wanted to help her out. On the other hand, my dress is my dress. It is not just some random outfit. It is deeply personal to me. I told her I'd think about it and get back to her. Now, here is where things get messy. I talked to my mom about it, and she said I should let Lisa borrow the dress because family helps family. But then my sister told me something that changed everything. Apparently, Lisa had been badmouthing me behind my back. She's been telling people that I'm selfish and that I only care about myself. She even said that my wedding dress was over the top and that I only spent so much money on my dress to show off. Hearing that hurt a lot. I've always tried to be there for Lisa, even when she's been difficult. But to hear that she's been talking about me like that, it made me question whether I even wanted to help her at all. I called Lisa and told her I wasn't comfortable letting her borrow my dress. I explained that it is a very special item to me and that I didn't want to risk anything happening to it. She immediately got defensive and started guilt-tripping me. I can't believe you are being so selfish, she said. It is just a dress. It is not like you are ever going to wear it again. I thought you cared about me. I stood my ground and told her no. She hung up on me, and since then, she has been giving me the silent treatment. Her mom came to see my mom to talk to me to help Lisa out, and my mom thinks I should borrow her the dress to keep the peace, but I don't want to. Her sisters and some members of the family thinks I'm overreacting, especially since I'll not be wearing my wedding dress again. They think I should just let her have it. Whilst my sister and some of my friends are saying this is my dress, and I have every right to say no. And now Lisa has been posting passive-aggressive stuff on social media about people who don't support you when you need them, and I know it is directed at me. Am I being unreasonable? Should I just suck it up and let her have it, or am I right to stand my ground? This follower needs your advice, babes. Please drop some below, and don't forget to follow me for more story times.